Also, we could talk about the Java for this statics, right? Those keywords, okay? And we're gonna talk about the equal method, right? So let's take a look at when do you want to use statics, when do you want to use this, and when you want to use equals, right? So now, so far we learned object-oriented programming, correct? So we know that object created from class, right? Now when we create a class, like this one, pretty much a main class, has a main method, right? But when we create a class that we want to create an object, create our own class, you normally go to create a new Java class, right? And let's say we dealing with, let's read the description of this class, car. We're going to create a car class, right? So we're going to make car, right? So car class. Now, also keep in mind, so this one just package. Package is just a folder location of where my car class is located. When I want to use, for example, main could be, if you remember when you do hello world, like we don't have any package, right? So if I want to use the car, you pretty much just need to import, right? Just like scanner java.util. So in this case, how would you import? What's the package name? I create a new car, right? Object. So the package name, pretty much com.company, right? So you just say import com.company dot car, right? So that's how you, same thing, right? All right, come back to car isn't a class, and we just create an object of a car named a car, right? So you could create several objects, right? Like another car with like my car, right? Equals to new car. That's the second object. So that's how we talk about object, right? Create two objects from the same class, car. So now, what's the next thing? Car should have the attributes, which is the color of the car, for example, right? Yeah, like say they ask you to do the attributes. They want count, and they want, actually this is refer back to the previous, right? Yeah, so color, horsepower, engine size, make. You probably already do this, right, from the previous class exercise. So now the question is, okay, if I say color, what is the data type? Should be string, right? It's just like we call it an instance variables, right? Variables. Make, same, right? String, make. What else? Huh? Model. String, model. Horsepower, double. Horsepower, okay?
Year. Year. Engine size was the other.
Engine size.
I think double was engine size.
Oh, okay. And horsepower could be is
Integer.
yeah, because horsepower is the whole number, right? We don't have 1.5 horse, right?
And it's H-O-R. There's no U on the horse.
Okay.
I'm serious.
Now, what else do we need? I think that's it, right? So, should we have a modifier for the instance variables here. Variables instance. Like modifier is like this is public, right? And should I have public here or private if I want to have one?
Right.
Either.
What's the difference?
You can access it if it's private. I mean public.
Private you cannot access, right? You cannot access meaning, like for example, I have a car. To access I do dot, right? Dot operators to what? Like horsepower. Like this is a list, pretty much what I can access, what I cannot. See that? So interestingly, you cannot access when it is private, and these are not private. I still cannot access. This is called default. Okay, now let me work on this a little bit. If I move class into the package, okay, same package now, right? So if it's same package, normally you don't really need to import anymore, right? Makes sense. So because it's in the same path, it's still seeing it. Make sense? Just make sure the main has it. Okay. Now let's see. Oh, I see engine size, horsepower, model, but not the other two, not the color, not the make. So when you put private, it's only valid inside this class, right? Which is car class itself. But when you leave it as default, before when we have it in different packages, it will not be able to see, right? But if it happen to be inside the same package or inside the same folder, technically, right? Then you should be able to access to the default too. So that's the modifiers. Make sure you put in your RAM. No, something that, because RAM you lose that. Remember that, okay? Default, you have an access in the same package, but not outside the same package. Make sense? Private, you have access only inside the class, right? Public, you have it access to the world. Like for example, now let's make this public, right? So let's do this again. We move main to be outside of the package, right? So no longer in that package, right? So we don't need this anymore. And we have to import, right? Now, let's see again. I need to access the attributes. You see that? I only have an access to public, which is the model, right, of the car. That makes sense? So that's the difference between modifiers. So we have learned 3 types of modifiers: private, public, and default mean you're not putting anything, okay? Now, you can have protected 2 into 1. That's another modifier you learn, okay? Now at this point, what should be a good modifier? Someone said public. Why? You can use it anywhere, okay, but it can be dangerous. It can be dangerous.
It could alter the other code.
Like you want your car to be public? Okay, give me your key now. I need your car keys. I'm going to drive your car. Make it anywhere. I don't care. It can be dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So, always better to make private first for the instance variables, right? Just like my shirts. I don't want anyone to wear my shirts or shoes like that. Okay, I'll have my public shoes.
Bowling shoes.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? You don't want to make it available to anyone because you don't want to have your stinky feet. Correct? Alright, so that's why we want private. Okay. Okay, so now the next thing is you could make a public like set and getters, right? To set the color of the car, right? Set color, right, with the string as a parameter with the same name, right? And set type is void because it doesn't return anything. Pass the values to change the value, right? So that's why we want public. Like, okay, if I want to allow someone to repair my shoes, right? Something like that, right? That's the case, right?
Intelligent has an update capacity.
Yeah, I did that.
Why?
That ruined the whole thing.
Are you being serious?
Yeah. it
So-
messed with me.
Now,
You read it? And for that. Yeah, so I don't want to hear. That's actually good.
I'm gonna use this, right? This is the time that you want to use this to refer to this. Pretty much just, hey, I refer to a car class right here myself, right? And I want to refer to the attributes that we were talking about earlier, right? Like I could do a car dot, right, to attributes, right? So just like this I don't have to say car, right? It's pretty much just represent car dot, right? Dot the attributes, right? But I could just say this dot color, right? Now the reason I want to do this that because we have two colors going on here, right? So this color is the instance variables, and this color is local variables as a parameters to this method set color only, right? So it's going to be only valid inside the method for the color here. So that's why we use this keyword to distinct, right? So what that's pretty much I want you to use that in this class exercise, right? Now let's talk about how about the other methods. Getters, right? Okay. So public. Now get your return type is string, get color, and you just return color, right? So refers to that. You could use this if you want, but since there's nothing to distinct, we can just say color, right? It's always refer to that because this scope only valid scope of color only valid in the highlighted area between the curly braces. Scope means the local color parameter here, right? If you never see outside, like this is outside that range, right? But private color always valid inside this curly brace, the whole highlighted area, right? So that's the scope of your instant variables when it's private. When it's public, I show you, and when it's default, I show you, right?
So by doing that, you're making it public?
Which part? This part?
So you have it as as private, but then you did the setters and getters, so you can have access.
Access through the method, public, right? Like even I have a private car, I can change the color of my car by just driving to the garage, like the color shop, and then let them set. So that's why it has to be public in that case, right? Like normally tell me what's your car, where you park. I can actually go and paint in your car now because it's public.
So that makes it public?
Like Ali, where's your car?
What?
What's the color of your car?
My car? White.
Do you want to change the color?
No. No.
Because public. Technically, yes, right? If someone want to do, but it may make you mad. But
What would you do if you
that's why we have set color, right? Okay. All right. So that happens to the same with make, model, horsepower, and engine size. So now you can also use the generator, okay, to generate the getter and setters like that. So it's gonna write that for you, like the setter and getters, right? And it's pretty much the same thing that we learned, right? With this and return. So those are setter getters and how to use this. Now, the next thing we want to look at is what? Statics, right? What happened to static method here, right? Alright, so let's go back and read the description a little bit. You're going to have to include count as the attributes and create a static count instance variable. Alright, so it's asks us to add another attribute name count. Okay, count is an integer, right? And what is count? Initialize to 0 first. What is count? It said I want that to be count. Going to keep tracking on it. I want it to be, they said want it to be static, right? And again we want private, right? And I want to be statics, right? Like that, static modifier in front. So what's the point of that, right? That's the question, right? So let's look at this then. So I'm not going to make it static first. I'm going to make a constructor named car. So you want to carefully pay attention to this, okay? It's very important. So this is a constructor that we call when we create what? An object, right? An object we call, right? This is called a constructor right there, right? So initializing color to Ali said he has a white car, right? So what's your make? The make of your car, Ali? Ali, what's the make? Ferrari? Oh, okay. Hyundai.
That's his daily though. Like if you're talking about his like
model
car, it's like a McLaren 570.
Sonata.
Ali doesn't like to show off, so you know he likes to stay home.
Horsepower.
What's the horsepower? 500? I don't know.
650.
I don't really know. 650 because
Engine size.
Ali, you're driving all of us to Russia.
6 cylinders.
it's not a monster.
Okay.
It's just a car.
What?
It's 2.4.
6.4.
2.4.
6.4 liters supercharged.
No,
5.4.
no,
Alright.
No, 5.4. No,
5.4.
2.4 horsepower, 650.
Alright, so we get a car. Alright, now let me ask you. When we create a car, we're gonna make it name Ali car. So if I do print here, what do we get?
You get that information.
You get white on.
Nope.
What?
Nothing?
What is that?
Oh, they gave you a code for the code.
No.
No.
Do you know what's that?
It's the location.
Of your
Location of the object.
Oh.
The package.
Now let's understand this a little bit. So an object, right? This, remember we created object, right? This is an object, right? Name what? Ali car, right? So this object created form. If you see this is a class, right? This is a class, The class name is car. Remember, the class has what? Has to allocate the memory, right? Location, right? So this is like just like a memory location, right? That we allocating it, right? And put into, this is like RAM, or right, computer RAM, right? So we already learned the size of the RAM from 1.1, how you bit and byte, right? So you store the data like that, an instance object, which, remember we have a model, string, make, engine size, double, right? So that's technically need to allocate, and we know that double is how many bits? 64 bits, right? So this is a pretty much just locate a memory location that dedicate for that, right? In your RAM, right?
GPS for your code?
Right, for the car you should have what, like model, right? And so on, right? Engine size. But like I said, if it's string, it's pretty much another class. But if it's just like double, it's just allocate about 64 bits, right? In 32 bits, right? And so on, right? So it's gonna keep doing that, right? For another available spaces, right? So it just depend on the spaces that we have. So now when we create an object, it's actually just refer to the location of the car like that, right? So that's why we get this number, but it's actually create an object of the car, right? So let's see, we're gonna print my car, right? So we have two reference, right? So this is called reference. A reference is a pointer right there, right? That point to the location of the car object. Like, meaning that, so this is a location that, like the address location, you see this is hexadecimal address, right? So this object pretty much, this object had to store somewhere when you create it, correct? This LE car, right? It's technically have to store in the location. It cannot be right there. It's pretty much just in the memory again, right? And it's gonna be at this memory address location. But it's just a small slot, right? For that. And this pretty much just reference, right? Reference to the car class. Okay. Just like I show you how it's referenced. It's the same reference like that, right? So if we draw another way around, this is pretty much in your RAM. It just keep continuing at the bottom right there, right? Like you have the sizes. The RAM could be very big and keep continuing on the top right there. Okay, that's what I mean, right?
But he's talking about these machines.
All right. So now it's just refer to the object of that, and this is pretty much the address of this car. Now if we go back to another object, my car, right? My car provides the same, just locate the next available address in the memory, and my car. And this my car pretty much has its own address, right? We create another object in the memory. You can see it actually has to refer to different location memory, right? Address memory. So this is another address. Okay. Now, okay, different numbers, right? And it's also pointing to the same. It's reference. This is called reference to the car, right? To the car that has the same model and engine size, right? So if I do now, the question is: are these two objects the same, even they are the car? Are they the same? Like, how do we know it's the same? This equals to my car, right? Can we do like that? 2 equals. We run it. It's going to say false because they're not the same object. Even you create from the car. Why? There are 2 different objects here with 2 different addresses, right? That makes sense? But it just refer to the same car class, right? Right? Like now, if we see the address because we never implement what? ToString, right? To return the information about the car back, right? Information about the car like white Hyundai Sonata, 650 horsepower, engine size 5.2, right? That's why we could implement ToString here. Now if I run this again, it's technically going to, instead of showing the address, show the information. Even the information are the same exact, is still not the same because they're 2 different objects. Make sense? Now, how would you compare 2 objects? And we're going to use top of equals. We don't want to use 2 equals, right? Because 2 equals we never gave you the same. Right, and then we're going to talk about statics again, like the count here, right? But let's look at in order to compare 2 objects, right? You need to create equal methods. That's why you want to create public, right? And Boolean, because it's going to say true or false, right? Boolean, what? Equals, right? Equals, and you return. Now, how do you know that 2 objects are equals? You probably go look at same color, same make, same model, same horsepower, same engine size, and same count, right? Or is it same count? Now you see count happen to be 0 here too, right? So if I create a setter and getter for count, so technically I can change the count, right? And what is count, by the way? Count, it's going to count how many objects has been created. So it should increment whenever time, like manufacturer want to keep tracking on how many cars they've been manufactured, right? So it should increment right there, right? Like in this case, if I run this, it's going to have to change the. Oh, I finished this, right? So I'm going to type something for now, just to test this one as a count first. So we considering about count. Now count is is that correct? How many objects of cars I created? It's supposed to be 2. And why is 1?
Because you started from 0?
Then plus when you create 1, it's going to be 1. Another create call twice, so it should be 2, right?
You spelled it right?
Ali, why is 1?
Why it's 1? He's asking
Because it's the same.
that.
Remember, this is 2 different objects.
Yeah, but don't.
If I make the color of the car change to blue,
Then it wouldn't be the same, would it?
would like I want Ali car to be blue. So I go to Ali car, I bought a paint and just a bucket and just splash on his car. So set color to blue now. Would that affect my car color to be blue too? When I have Hyundai Sonata white too.
Yeah, but didn't you equal
Yeah.
my car to equal Ollie's car?
It doesn't make sense, right? That I splash his car to be blue and my car is gonna be blue. No, look, my car is still white, right?
The count is 1.
Because these are 2 different objects, right? 2 different objects. They have its own, right, color values, right? So that means it's just refer to a class, but the value itself being changed, right? It's pretty much just have it.
Everyone who takes this is
Like this one, you refer to car, the structure, but the values you hold the values, right, with different values, right?
I think it's only relevant, right?
Now, the count is the same. When you create a car, I just count belongs to Ali car, and another count belongs to my car. They're 2 different objects. If I change one count value, it will not affect another count, right? Like if I make Ali car dot set count, I set it to 3. I run this, it will not affecting my car, right? See that? Because they're 2 different objects. Then this is not we want, right? Question first.
Oh, so there's 3 of Ali cars and then 1 of your car, so that's a total of 4? Or no?
I mean, this is just the attribute, right? Count,
So does that have anything to do with the ball?
which is not right. I don't want it to be this way, right? Because I want to keep tracking of how many cars. We only create 2, right? So that's why we have the word statics come. Because when it's non-statics, it belongs to each object, right? When it's statics, let's take a look. We have 2 cars now. Like first time when I create Ali car, we gonna have just 1 count equals to 1, right? Now I create my car, I have 2. So that's the point of statics, right? To make this variable stay, right? Stay statics, like stay the same, right? Like only one created, not difference, right? Okay, so that's how you can use. In this case, we don't want to allow anyone to change the count unless they want to reset, right? If you want to have set count, but if you don't want to allow, just don't implement it, right? Or make it private and only authorize someone with authority to do reset, right? And call the reset to call set color. All right, so now we're not going to worry about this. Get count, since this is statics, meaning it's always going to be one value, so you can just make this as statics methods too, because whenever you get a count, you're going to get the same values out. So there's no reason to create an object to get the count. Like just like math dot square root, you're going to have the same square root out, right? So if I want to keep tracking on the count, I technically can just print and accessing the class name, right? To print class name is car dot get count. Like as statics way, you don't need to create an object, right? Just like the math dot, right? Square root math dot power, right? Power. You've been doing that, right? Like scanner, no, it's non-static. You have to access this way, right? Create an object. So now we understand statics. We understand this. Now we want to talk about equals again, right? So come back. So we have to implement equals to compare two objects. Otherwise, always going to be false, right? So if you want to know two objects are equals, like equals could be non-static because we can compare one object to another object, right? So we're going to compare the attributes. And we have to pass another object in. And another object is what? What type of object? A car, right? Car, pretty much another car, right? We call object, right? Or car, right? So how do you get to the color of the car? This, we compare this car to another car, right? This refer to the attributes again, right? This dot engine size string. String mean you gotta use string is a class, right? Oh no, engine size is not string. Engine size double. We can use two equals, right? It's primitive type, right? Car dot what? Engine size. Correct. And right? Use AND operator, right? You keep comparing, right? What you want to compare next? This dot horsepower. Horsepower is integer, so we can do two equals car dot horsepower. And what? This dot color. Color is string, right? String you have to do method equals, just like the same object should have method equals. So every object classes should implement equals. That makes sense? Equals what? Car dot color, right? What else? And this dot make is string, so dot equals, right? Car dot make, right? And since we have so many attributes, all of them have to be equals, then the car two objects will be equals, right? Dot models, right? Dot equals to car dot model. Make sense? So that's how we implement the equals. If they are equals, returns true. Now let's compare now. Instead of do two equals, it's going to be false, right? Dot equals. So we're not going to Ali car to compare to my car, right? If they're equals in the term of not two objects, but in term of the attributes, same color, same make, same model, same horsepower, and same, not the count, because we're not worried about the count, right? So that's pretty much it for the class exercise, right? That's showing you how to use this statics and equals. So you probably want to, I just show you an example, create new driver class, right? Use the G option pane or any UI, your choice, Android, JavaFX that I have taught you, right? So, or even the web app to get the input in and compare to another car and returns true or false. Right, create another car object with the same values, like just show you Ali car and my car, and use equal method to compare. Right, so for use create new object by prompt the user to enter information of the car. So now let me show you how you do this on the web application. So we could create a new project, right? So first, let me make sure we have. Last time I show you Spring, right? It's for the web, right? So let's review that one more time, right? Hello world Spring, right? Alright, so this is a Spring. Like pretty much just want to create a web application using Spring framework. So we have two classes. This is not a web application yet. Yeah, we don't have to do that one with Spring. Can be in the web or just a regular application here, right? So we have three files. Main app, pretty much just the main method, right? We just try to say hello world. You may see why we just don't do system.out or hello. The plain hello world, right? But we talk about what the concept of this is decouple, right? And do dependency injection, right? DI, right? We create a class. Let's just make it more simplified, right? Name hello world. Just like we create a car class. We have the attributes message as a string, set and getters, right? Set message and get message. And now we have the application main that try to say hello world. Okay, so but it's not saying directly because it depends on the configuration under the XML file. That's good config. This is just to decouple the object out. And remember, because we gonna use the dependency injection to decide which one is the right object to use, right? So that's why we have beans.xml, and beans.xml said I give the ID. This is an XML file. XML pretty much just the tags. Open, like open tag first line said this is XML version 1 encoding standard UTF-8. So encoding, just like when you do ASCII, that's another standard, right? So this is UTF-8 bits. So, and they have another tag called beans. Open the beans, close the beans. So many beans gonna be inside, just like a bag of the beans, like jelly beans. So we have one bean named ID hello world. Name pretty much get to ID, right? And all the beans has to follow these standards on the World Wide Web, right? W3 Spring Framework standard, right? Schema beans, XML schema instance, right? Those are XML standard, okay? That do parser to make sure you have in the same format. Otherwise, you can just freely write XML anyway, but that not right format, right? So this is going to be schema beans, right? Schema location, right? Now, we talk about bean. So bean, this is one bean. We can have several beans. We just make an ID hello world. That's referred to the class hello world, right? That hello world in the same package. So that means whenever I call this ID, I refer to this hello world, right? Okay, and this bean has a, if you look at hello world, they have the property or the attributes message. So that's why this bean just set the property name equals to the message. And now we gonna have setters, right? Which is what this guy going to change the values hello world, right, to hello world by passing the message and set it to a new message, which is we set it to say hello world, right, to the value. So this is just how you passing information through the beans, right? XML. We try to decouple it, right? We can actually technically do it inside hello world, I mean main app, but we try to isolate it. Okay, that's part of the concept of that, the dependency injection and IOC inversion of control to decide which, this is pretty much a one, right? Decide which ID hello world refer to, right? About. So that's why we have application context class, right? That create a new class XML application. That's the one that we refer to in the program. Hey, you have to refer to this to do the configuration, right? And then we create an object hello world, right? We get the beans, right? When we refer to ID of that beans, get beans refer to that XML, right, context. So we get the object out, we have to cast it back to hello world object, right? Let's get bean technically just return an object because it's part of the application context, right? So if you refer to Java doc, like application context, right, Java doc. So you guys see this is part of Spring Framework. They're gonna talk about get beans, right? The method name get beans. Right, you can get the ID, get the ID pretty much just return the hello world, right? Get display name, right? Get startup update get application name, and one of those get bean is just coming from here, get bean, right? We talk about when create bean, we use the factory a little bit. All right, and then we can return the message, right? So now get message, we can return the objects, right? Hello world, instead of creating what an object to new, right? New operators. Remember, this is the idea of the factory. We just call it a bean factory, right? Factory, pretty much you can create. We were talking about, let's review a little bit, right? We talk about factory design pattern. So like instead of making an object to the constructor new, you can actually refer to the method to make the instance object, right? So define interface for creating an object, but let's subclasses decide which class to instantiate, right? That's the point, right? So because we're going to deal with so many beans objects, so that's why we create this. We don't want to keep calling the new constructor for different objects because we don't know. So that's why we just make it design based on the idea that we provide. It's going to create an object for you. All right, now can I find symbol hello world?